And we are back for the RAC Show, the Responsibly Armed Citizen Show. I'm one of your hosts, Frank Horvath. I am joined by Tim Kelly. Tim, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Good.
Fantastic. We have some guests in studio with us today.
We sure do.
All right, we have the legendary shotgun instructor, cowboy extraordinaire, Zach Cox. You guys may have remembered him from a couple of shows ago. And he's also joined by his father, Alan Cox. Zach, Alan, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. Good to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. So we got a pretty special show for you guys today. As you guys have heard in previous shows, Zach had a shotgun class. The shotgun class went off with a bang. And chunk bang.
I see what you did.
And we figured that it would be a good time to, bring one of the students in from the class. It just happened to be, Zach's father. And we haven't debriefed with Zach at all, or Tim, you haven't debriefed with Zach at all as far as the class goes. So you have no idea how the class went.
Nope.
So live on air, we're gonna open up this can of worms, and we're gonna go from there. We're gonna see how it all went. So before we get there. Zach, Alan, I want you guys to introduce yourselves. Zach, we'll start with you first. Let's talk a little bit about, who are you? Why do we care? Why are you here today?
Well, I'm here because you guys asked me to be here, but no, I love being out here. I was on another episode, but I'm Zach Cox with Apache Solutions, and I'm one of the instructors out there. I've been doing that for a few years, and also cattle farm on the side with the guy next to me, and it's a lot of fun and enjoy life. But yeah, I started doing the instructor route and got all kinds of certifications all over the board, and decided to start getting into the shotgun teaching realm and created my first shotgun curriculum kind of thing and implemented that this week. And it's a 4-part series, and we're moving on to the second one now, which is shotgun manipulations. So,
cool. Alan, you're not a shotgun instructor, right? So you're not an instructor as far as our gunslinging thing. But you're a responsibly armed citizen. So tell us a little bit about you. What is your background, and what brings you in today?
Well, as you know, because you're looking at me, I'm an old man. But I've been around firearms my entire life. But I'm a pastor by vocation. Have been a pastor for about 45 years. Yeah. And so I don't have a lot of firearms training, although I've been shooting guns for more than 50 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And felt more comfortable around a shotgun, but I found out I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right,
There's a lot of things that I learned, and we'll talk more about that later. But thank you for inviting me to come and give my perspective on the class.
Yeah.
And I'll be glad to do that.
Yeah, giddy up. We want that unadulterated opinion, right? So we're gonna jab at Zach a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah. You can count on it.
Yeah, that's good. I see the sweat starting to beat up on Zach's face.
I made a special trip in here today just for that.
Yeah, exactly. For all of you guys watching us on the live stream, you'll see, normally Zach's in his great big old cowboy hat. He's not wearing a cowboy hat today. He's getting a little shaggy,
It's dirty.
But I can see the beads of sweat already. It's starting to fill up on his forehead. So yeah, we're gonna have a good time. So before we get into that, Tim, how was your weekend?
Man, it was pretty awesome. I really hate that I missed Zach's class, but made it up to Pennsylvania with some of my old veteran buddies, and we did a bachelor party up there for one of my guys, and went whitewater rafting.
Oh, giddy up!
That was fun, man. That was all of us. It was our first time. Had an excellent guide. We had to do all kinds of really fancy, cool stuff, and really enjoyed our weekend.
Yeah,
really did.
Very cool. It's funny that Zach's here. Zach got me into something neat. I got to involve the family. It's a family fun activity, geocaching. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty wild. So there's an app. You can open up the app, and there are these geocaches. It's like adult scavenger. Well, not really adult. It's a family
hunting.
Fun treasure hunting, right?
Everybody. Yeah.
So yeah, everybody can get involved. But there's these clues or these locations of things, these caches that you can go and find, go and search. And some of these are, literally out in the middle of the woods, at a park, something like that.
And they're all different sizes.
All different sizes.
Big,
yeah, they're kind of all over the place. And So I was able to take the family out, and we went geocaching together as a family for the first time. It was a riot. We had so much
Bet
fun.
it was.
Yeah, and, having my son and my daughter just running through the woods, looking, flipping over every log, every rock, every stump that they can get into. It was a fantastic time. We really had a lot of fun. All right, so Zach's class. So Zach, what class did you teach? Give us a little bit of details on that.
So it's a 4-part series. The shotgun. The first one we did was shotgun control. The next couple is going to be shotgun manipulations, shotgun applications, and then shotgun metrics. But this class was more about control, controlling yourself, controlling your shotgun, and being able to maintain control with recoil management, with your mind and self-defense, and it's just across the board, mainly about control.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
And I was also at the class. I was able to participate some. You also covered applications, right? So different uses for different types of shotguns, why you want to use particular shotguns.
Yep.
Went over a little bit of like nomenclature, different parts of shotguns. I mean, it was jam packed. It had a lot of really good information that was in there.
Yeah, it was good. We went through different kinds of applications of like whether it's hunting, self-defense, competition, things like that, even just fun, recreational. But it was really cool because a lot of that, the fundamentals of control and controlling the shotgun applies to all of it. Applies to the self-defense side, the competition side, all of that. So it was really good. It was really cool to see all the students really learn and accept all the information very well. So,
yeah, that was one of the things I really thought went well in the course. It was a very diverse class. So we had people who had been around shotguns, all their lives, such as Alan. We had people that literally that class was the very first time that they had touched a shotgun.
yeah.
They had borrowed a shotgun from us so that they can go through the course, which is fantastic. We encourage that. And then we had the gamut. We had some guys who have been shooting shotgun competitively for years. We had some guys that and gals, I should say, that just wanted to know a little bit more or wanted to learn learn things that they didn't know, right?
Yeah.
So trying to figure things out.
I think there were several people in there. In fact, most everybody in there learned something
Yeah.
that they didn't know. It was excellent in that respect.
Yeah. Well, I think what we'll do is we're going to cut to break here in about a minute and a half or so, but we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about Alan, your experience and what you learned, and dive into that a little bit. Zach, we don't want to give too much of your secret sauce away, but the content was just so good. Like, it was just such an enjoyable class. The piece that really stuck out to me was the applications piece. Not every shotgun, not every tool that you use can be used in the exact same manner, the exact same way, and is not needed for every application, right? So there are some shotguns that are great for literally hunting. There are some shotguns that are great for home defense. There are some shotguns that are great for competition. But as far as across the board, you can use the tool that you have.
Yeah.
But across the board, there are certain things that work well and certain things that don't.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, well, fantastic. Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start working towards talking about that. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about Alan's experience. We'll figure out a little bit about what he learned and what he liked and what he didn't like, and we're going to pick on Zach a little bit. So let's see how that goes.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the Rack Show, where we talk about everything regarding the responsibly armed citizen. We're back with Zach and Alan Cox and Frank Horvath talking about Zach's shotgun control workshop. I kind of want to make mention the stuff that just really doesn't get a whole lot of spotlight is the work that goes on behind the scenes to make a class like this happen.
Yeah.
You know, when you said, you know, this class was exceptional, it was great. There's really no surprise to me. I mean, Zach's an excellent instructor, but really what goes into it is the work that you put in prior to. And what a lot of his students may not have seen are that hours upon hours upon hours of orchestrating an event like this. I mean, it's a 4-hour class, but there's a lot, as you said, it's jam-packed, full of stuff. And there's a certain flow, there's a certain way you have to organize it in order for it to actually be received well by students. Zach, you want to tell us a little bit about your experience with your first real outline that you organized?
Yeah, it was never actually doing it before. It was kind of nerve-wracking, and also to live up to the Apache name as well. It was daunting at first, but the more that I got into it and the more I worked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never realized how much went into it and what it takes to get all the T's crossed and the I's dotted to make a class go well and be proficient and make students happy and get them to be able to learn.
And I mean, and it showed, right?
Yeah.
So like a lot of that hard work, a lot of that back end stuff that you'll talk a little bit more about. From my point of view, the students were safe. The students had a good time. There wasn't a ton of pressure. I mean, there's a little bit of pressure, but it was needed. You're doing something new. You're doing something that's foreign. No, like it was 100% evident. It was 100% evident that Zach put a lot of work into it.
Teaching is and instructing on the line and out on the range. I've done a bunch, and with you guys, and even separately, part of Apache, teaching different classes and things. But creating my own curriculum and my first shotgun curriculum, because a lot of times we do a lot of pistol self-defense stuff at Apache, but this is the first shotgun curriculum that we've created. But the more I got into it, I'm very, very bad at computers. So Tim's been helping me work through the different computer stuff and wizardry. But I got to learn a lot during the process and learn about myself more too, so I can be a better instructor, better man, all that good stuff. So it was a lot of fun. A lot of hard work, but a lot of fun.
All that hard work, did it pay off?
Yeah, it was worth it. It taught me so much, but it also created a class that was good to bring to students, and it was very beneficial for me and them to be able to do this and then bring it to them. So it was very rewarding.
Man, I'll say, and I'm not exaggerating when I say hours upon hours of study and outline management and putting
and testing.
Putting all this stuff together, using your laboratory to test out whether or not these actual exercises and drills and stuff like that you're going to be running, using that laboratory to make sure that it's actually going to work and be receptive. But a lot of times, man, you go through that outline completely, and you go through it again, and you make changes, and you make changes, and you make changes, and you make changes, and by the time it gets to the point where you're actually ready to teach the class, you've already taught the class in your head. 50 different times, and so it's all there, and so it takes a little bit of the weight off your shoulders when you're there, and it's almost a little bit more mechanical,
right?
Like it's just okay, now just do it.
Yeah, it's
right?
like
I've written it
business as
down
usual.
1,000 times, so I just got to do it now.
And the laboratories he's talking about is I teach one-on-one private sessions for everybody listening out there. So like I would have a student that would have a 1 or 2 hour block, and I would get to test things on them to see what worked and what didn't, and what they liked and didn't. So there's a lot of laboratories is what he was saying and what I was saying earlier, but that's what that is. And that was probably the most beneficial, was the countless hours with students one-on-one, teaching them shotgun, testing things, trying new things. And it really helped teach the full class.
And if you ever want to get in with Zach for a private session, he teaches at Apache Solutions in Yacoville, North Carolina, every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, right? Wednesday.
Amen.
So all you got to do is reach out to us, and we'll get you a session booked.
Yeah, you can do that at info@apacheNC.com. That's info@apacheNC.com. And what was that phone number, Tim?
336-422-6859.
There we go. Blow that phone up. All right. Zach, so what was the one thing in the class that we'll call it a hero moment? What was that one hero moment for you? They were like, yeah, this is awesome. This worked very well. I'm gonna continue to do this again.
I would say the best part of the class, honestly, is having my dad there for my first class,
Yeah.
and his first real, I guess, instructed professional class he's ever taken. But it was really cool to be able to be on the line with him, help him, teach him. But I think to answer your question, I would say teaching the recoil management side of it, and when it clicked for the students. And like we had a lady there, her name's Patrice, and she had struggled with some of the recoil management, but when it clicked for her and the way I explained it to her, she was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is amazing. And then she did it. She was like, that didn't hurt at all. That's amazing. And she got so excited. It was cool to see.
I'm not going to give away your secret sauce because it really if you didn't say that, I was going to say something just like that.
Yeah.
So there's a particular drill that Zach does. And again, I'm not going to give away his secret sauce, but the way that he goes about, let's say, getting the students' participation in this drill and having them actually work through this process, this technique, is gold. It is absolute gold. It works so well. I got to AI the class, and Zach told me what we're going to do in our private coaching sessions back and forth, and just make sure that we were both on the same page. He was like, "All right, do this," and he did this to me, and I was like. Like it messed with me at first. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go.
Dude.
Like, yeah, it really
You're
did.
like, oh no. Let me try that again.
Yeah, seriously, like it really messed with me. And then game day when we're there actually in the class, and I'm helping some students on one end and Zach's on the other, and we're working across the line, meeting each other in the middle. And it was like, I would do this particular thing to the student, and it was like instant light bulb. And I was like, yeah, Zach, go to the next student. Instant light bulb. And I'm like,
Yeah, it was super cool to see.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
Because, we'd run the entire line.
That was the first time testing it as like a big class. Because
Yeah.
we've tested it a bunch of times with singular students and one-on-ones, that kind of thing. But doing it as a class all together, it was really neat to see.
It was really neat to see. It was just, like I said, it was, light bulb. And that right there, you don't see those light bulbs all the time. Right, those light bulbs are I don't want to say that they're rare, but they're
Few and
unusual.
far between.
Yeah, they're few and far in between. Because usually it's like you either get it or you don't get it. One of those kind of things.
No.
Or you keep practicing until you get that level of authenticity. But when you have a bona fide light bulb moment, you can see it. Like you can see it on the student's face, and they actually they can get it. That is gold. That's gold as an instructor. And then even more so from that. The students were calling themselves out when they weren't applying the proper technique in the moment. And this was right after this light bulb. And that's where learning is occurring. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, that was fantastic.
So speaking of the student's perspective, Alan, I'd really like to hear what you thought about the class. First off, you said you have a great deal of time behind the shotgun.
Yeah, I started when I was 12 years old. Got my first shotgun for Christmas when I was 12, and I'm 65 now. And so that's a long time to be around shotguns, at least 50 years.
Sure.
And so I come at it, I've hunted every type of hunting that you can possibly do. And so I'm most familiar with a shotgun rather than a pistol or a rifle. I have a lot of experience with shotgun. And so I didn't really want to come to the class, but I wanted to support Zachary. Just being honest.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spend a half a day out in the hot sun.
Yeah.
And I had gardening and other things I had to do, and preparing a sermon for Sunday. And
Right.
And I really didn't want to come, but I told Zachary I would, so I came. And so I came, I wouldn't say with a bad attitude, but with just going to support Zachary.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm coming at it from a perspective. I was a professional educator. I was an executive vice president at a university, and so I understand education and how curriculum and all that kind of stuff goes. And so I'm coming at it with a critical eye, but also with a critical eye as a daddy, knowing his son.
Yeah.
And, Zach can be a goof off if he wants to be.
Big time.
I mean, and that's part of his personality. That's what makes Zachary Zach.
Right.
And so I'm coming at it from that perspective. And so immediately, within the first 15 minutes, I'm saying to myself, man, he knows what he's talking about. He's prepared. He's well prepared. This is not something that is new. He's not a newbie at this. He's not a novice. He knows what he's talking about. And so on and on it went. And then he starts to train, to educate. And so I think from an education perspective, it was excellent. He did an excellent job communicating. But secondly, I just saw how professional he was as a father to a son, that this was very professional. And I have never seen Zachary in a professional light, other than, well, he owned a business, and he knew what he was doing there, but I just didn't see it in the same context.
It wasn't firsthand.
Right.
Yeah.
And so from an educational standpoint, excellent training. From a standpoint as a father, I was proud that Zachary was top-notch instructor, and I was very excited to see that as a father. But as a student, there's a lot of things that I could say, and maybe in the next section I'll say more about that and about the things that I learned. I mean, things that I had no idea. I had no concept of, even though I'd shot a shotgun for 50 years.
One of the things you said in the very beginning of all that was, you have more experience with a shotgun than you do a rifle or a pistol. That's part of the reason why Zach and I had extensive conversations about, running the shotgun in a laboratory and stuff like that, because you're not the only one. I mean, this is a very, very common tool found in a lot of North Carolina homes. And so that's why I really encouraged Zach to do this. So I guess when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about some of the more detailed experiences that you had at the class, some of your biggest takeaways, and what was really different. So when we come back, that's what we'll talk about.
Sounds great. Let's do that. And we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Rack Show, the Responsibly Armed Citizen Show. We are coming back to a conversation we're having with Alan Cox about his experience with his sons, Zach Cox's shotgun control class. So picking right back up where we left off, Alan, give us some things that you learned in that class. What things really stuck with you? What things that really stuck out to you? as far as you said that you've been shooting shotguns for a majority of your life, but there are still some things you learned. So give us a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, I came to the class, again, not really wanting to be there, but just to support Zach. But I realized real quickly that he had so much more knowledge about shotgun, and the class was metrics and handling of a shotgun and those kind of things. And I thought, okay, let's listen. And so the more we went into the class, the more I realized what I didn't know, what I understood. And so a couple of things, I'll mention two at least. The biggest thing was the recoil management. And I've been shooting shotgun, and in skeet shooting, we did a lot of skeet shooting when Zachary was younger. And I didn't understand recoil management and would go home after shooting all day and have a bruised shoulder, and it would hurt and it would be painful for a week and have bruises on the shoulder. And I thought that was normal for shotgun shooting. And so after shooting all day on Saturday, I had no bruise, nothing, because of the recoil management technique. And going back to what you were saying about one of his secret sauces,
Yep.
is the recoil management. And incredible way to teach that. And so I took that away and didn't have a bruised shoulder. And so it worked. It worked for me. And I brought a guy with me who had never even touched a shotgun other than picking it up and putting it in a gun cabinet. And this guy, and he had a shotgun that would blow your shoulder off. It was just it was a powerful shotgun. And anyway, he learned also a very important lesson about recoil management. And that's one thing I took away, and which was excellent for me. I did not understand that before, had no concept.
Yeah.
The second thing was unloading a shotgun properly. In a pump shotgun, you just rack it and it shoots the shell out the side. And I did not know that you could unload the gun safer and properly without having to pick up your shells that flew out to the side.
Right.
And so those are two takeaways that I learned from the class that I thought was very valuable. There were other things that I learned, but those two stick out that I didn't know you could unload a shotgun like he taught in this class. Didn't even know it existed. And that's kind of a teaser for those who are listening. There is a proper way to do that, and to be safer, keep your shells clean, and so forth. And so those are two takeaways that I have.
I remember, early on, because as a kid on a farm, you were given a shotgun, or I was allowed to use my daddy's shotgun, and I could go in the backyard and blast cans and clays and things like that. I mean, that was normal. But as time went on, as I actually got some formal education, that same thing. Like I thought you unload a shotgun just by a pump shotgun anyway, just by racking it. Running that pump and doing the chunk, right? And same with the semi-auto shotgun, kind of the same thing. Grab a hold of the bolt and just run the bolt back and forth. It's not just unsafe. I mean, yeah, there's a safety factor to that also, but there are so many other better ways to safely administratively handle that shotgun, administratively handle that firearm that people just don't know. You make an assumption, this is what I've been taught all my life, but until you actually sit down and you actually take a class, actually take a course, and learn those other ways, learn safer ways, we'll say, that it's like that Dunning-Kruger, right? You don't know what you don't know. Right. You're kind of sucked in the same resonant echo chamber as other people that are around you. So unless you break out of that, that's all that you're gonna know.
Right. And having been doing this for a little while, I've met quite a few people who have had negligent discharges at their home, right, or at a range or whatever. And I would say a good solid, and I'm trying to be honest here, a good solid 90% of them, all of those negligent discharges happen during an administrative task.
Absolutely.
Right. During an unloading phase or a reholstering phase or a loading phase or something along those lines, where they're just doing something with the gun that doesn't imply that they're they're shooting. They're not target practicing. They're cleaning their gun. They're taking their gun apart to clean it, and they have a negligent discharge. They take their gun out to go do dry fire, and they have a negligent discharge. Or they put the gun away after cleaning and have negligent discharge, something along those lines. And I think there needs to be more time spent on these administrative tasks so we can eliminate, some of those possibilities.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm fairly confident around a shotgun because I've handled one for 50 years. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And some of my practices were negligent, and I didn't know that. And so this class helped me to become more competent at what was being taught, which actually increased the confidence level that I had.
Right.
But I think there are different levels of competency, and like in anything, there's different levels of competency that brings about more confidence at different levels. And I became more confident of handling a shotgun, even though I was already confident but not competent.
Right. Yeah.
Which is kind of arrogant.
Yeah.
Well, it's big of you to say that, right? So it's big of you to acknowledge that, because a lot of people that we talk to, especially in our community, we're talking rural North Carolina. A lot of guys that we talk to, if we mention something to them about shotguns or scatter guns or whatever you want to say, like, oh, I know how to run that. I've been shooting that since I was 2. And there's an air of arrogance. And it's not, it's again, it goes back to, you don't know what you don't know. So
ignorance.
There's some ignorance out there.
So, I mean, you said it in the very beginning. You didn't want to take this class.
Right.
If it were me teaching that class, you don't need to come support me. But because your son taught the class, you say, I'm going to go support my son. That's the reason why I need to be there. I guess I'm going to have to skip gardening today, and I'm going to have to make up for all those new weeds, and I'm going to have to make up for all this other lost time, with all the other things that I have to do later on. But it's one of those things that you sacrificed, specifically for your son. A lot of people don't owe that to Zach, so they'll see the title of the class and just admit that. Or they'll convince themselves that, nah, I don't need that. I've been shooting for a long time.
I already know
That's
how
a
to
good
control
point.
a shotgun.
Is that I didn't think I needed it.
Right.
Now that I saw what I didn't know, I'm going to take the other 3 classes, these other workshops, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to know more. Now that I know a little more than I knew, I'm going to take the other classes. And it's not just because it's Zachary, because I would have fulfilled my daddy duty to come out to his first class and then be done with it. But now it was such a good class, and I enjoyed myself because I'm a lifelong learner, that I want to know more. I want to be able to even be more competent at what I'm doing, and so I'm going to take the other 3 classes.
That's fantastic, man. I think that there's a lot of folks out there, hopefully, that are listening that could really learn something from that. So, Zach, let's kick it back to you, man. What do you think? What do you think was the best part of the class, like altogether?
Like I said earlier, for me, it was my dad being there for my first class and all that good stuff. But I don't know, man. It's hard to actually hone it down to one thing because there were so many different times and that were so good. The whole class was fun.
Well, we talked a whole lot about recoil management. What were some of the other things, and administrative handling and stuff like that? What were some of the other things that you covered in the class?
This was how to administratively load and unload and different ready positions. It was how to stand, your platform, your stance, the correct way to mount and where to mount the shotgun into your shoulder, hand placement, grip, everything like that. So we went through a lot of the fundamentals, and it all worked up at the end to kind of like an evaluation to see what they learned in the class. And it was cool to watch them, that we went through all of this stuff, and at the end it was an evaluation, which they didn't really know it was, but then they were all doing it, and they could load on their own, they could shoot on their own, they could mount it, they were fixing their own stance and fixing their own things, or if they shot one round, then they were like, oh wait, that hurt. Why did that hit my shoulder a little more than normal? Oh wait, this is why, because I'm not doing this.
Yep.
And so they would fix it. And I would say my favorite part is the light bulb moments, but also that the learning was happening. They were fixing themselves by the end. Frank, he was there and he AI'd for me, and which is assistant instructor. So he helped me out a lot, and he got to see a lot of it too. But it was cool to see that they were fixing their own issues and problems and things that they needed to work on their own.
And I think safety was a big issue that I saw. Is that I saw the arena of safety elevated among the students through the teaching and the proper handling of the shotgun, and I found myself being more keenly aware of those safety items, and those down the line I watched them because I wanted to see how they were responding to the education part of it, and so they were all responding in a more safe manner. And so I think that was a key point about the education or the training.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you say early on, and it almost feels like old hat, especially for us that are that do it all the time. We'll go through a safety brief. We hit safety rules. We hit in the event of emergency, this is what happens. We really break it down to make sure that there's a safe environment so that people can learn. And when it's very easy, especially when you're a student, when you're learning something new, to get complacent. And that's something that really did not happen in this class.
Yeah.
There's some quality learning that was happening. People were getting things, light bulb moments were happening, and the entire time students were safe. The entire time students were doing exactly what they were told to do in the very beginning. Zach and I didn't have to, or I think Marcia, one of our other RSOs, she was there just watching for safety events. She didn't have to get on anybody about really anything.
Yeah.
So
Everybody had fun.
And
everybody
everybody-
just
it was
enjoyed the day.
Yeah, yep. Everybody had fun. Everybody enjoyed the day. It really was, like I said, it was quite an event, and everything worked out very well. Let's continue to talk about that. Let's continue to talk about a little bit more fun. Let's continue to talk about a little bit more of how things went and what's going to happen in the future. And let's do that. So you're listening to the Responsibly Armed Citizen Show, where we talk about all things responsibly armed citizens should know. We'll be back soon. And we are back. Thank you. If you were joining us from the last segment, we're talking about Zach Cox shotgun control class and how big of a hit it was. It went just fantastic. We had his father, Alan Cox, in the room, giving us his honest feedback of how he thought Zach's class went. Again, no spoilers here. It went fantastic, both on a personal level and on a professional level. Zach, I'm done talking about shotgun stuff, but I want you to give us some plugs. So Alan had made mention of some of the other classes that were coming up. He said there's 3 more. When's the next one, and where can people go to find more information about it?
So the next one is shotgun manipulations. It is going to be focusing on manipulating the shotgun in different ways, different reloads with speed and other things like that. It's diving a little bit more deeper into the how to handle, manipulate, and use the shotgun in a lot of different fun, fast, great ways for self-defense or anything else in between. That class is Shotgun Manipulations is September 24th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Cool.
So it's on a Sunday. It's after church, so Dad can actually preach and then come to the class afterwards.
See that? So preacher rock up to the church, has a shotgun on the back window. We should talk about that. And then just
Absolutely.
skip at a ton, yeah.
But no, that's coming up, and then we'll have another one the next month, which we can talk about that later. But you can find it on our Facebook. It's on the events page through Eventbrite. You can go to our website as well, ApacheNC.com, and or you can call our number and ask any questions you got, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so if you go to ApacheNC.com, you can see all of the upcoming classes, all the upcoming courses. If you scroll down a little bit on the page, you can see Zach's class amongst with other classes, things like that, other events that we have coming up.
There's
so that's
a bunch going on.
ApacheNC.com. Yep. All right. So Tim, competency of the month. So our competency of the month for the month of August is what? And what are we talking about today?
So we're talking about safe storage of firearms, and some better ways to go about safely storing your firearms. You just mentioned, I just kind of like light bulb a minute ago. You mentioned the shotgun in the window of the truck. Not a safe way to store your firearm. All right.
Why not?
So let's talk about that.
That's it used to be a rather common way to carry your gun around, right?
Yeah,
and I guess
many times. Took them to school even.
yeah, exactly. And don't
do that now.
get me wrong. You can't
You can't do that now. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There are certain environments where, absolutely. If you wanted to, put a shotgun in a shotgun rack at the bed of your truck because you live on a ranch, right? And that's where you choose to keep it, man, that's fine. But when you leave that ranch and you go down to the Piggly Wiggly down the road to go pick yourself up a case of beer or whatever it is, leaving it in your pickup truck is probably not the brightest ideas.
No, it's not ideal.
It's a really easy way for somebody just to do a snatch and grab, bust out your window, reach in. I've literally, I said Piggly Wiggly, and I I say that because I remember seeing pickup trucks at the Piggly Wiggly down in Camp Lejeune where I used to live with shotguns in the back window, and I've also been there when the Christmas lights showed up and there's a cop standing next to somebody because he's reporting a stolen shotgun and a stolen rifle out of his window.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's people say, the criminals are buying these guns and the criminals, are doing this. There's gun show loopholes, all this other kind of stuff. And, the I don't even want to say the armed citizen, not the responsible armed citizen, the armed citizen is, taking their firearm and they'll see a sign that says, no firearms inside or something like that and doing, what they believe is correctly and, taking their firearm off or whatever it may be, but they're not locking it up. They're just stuffing it up underneath the seat, or they're just sticking it on the dash of their vehicle or something, right? And so now you have a firearm that's inside of we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's a locked vehicle, right? Mm-hmm. So there is a firearm inside of a locked vehicle that anybody can just bust that window, get inside that vehicle, steal that firearm, and now it's it can be used for any purpose. And that's the sad piece of it.
Right.
Criminals are always going to have access to firearms, and as long as people are not willing to secure their firearms, whether it being inside of a locked container, inside of a locked vehicle, or whatever it may be, as if they're not going to secure those firearms, then criminals are going to continue to have access to firearms.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to break into side of vehicles. They're going to continue to steal things. And as a responsibly armed citizen, there are steps that we have to do in order to ensure that our firearms are secured from unauthorized persons, whether that be a criminal, whether that be kids, whatever it may be.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's any new shotgun or new rifle or new pistol. It doesn't matter what kind of firearm that you purchase from a gun store. Every single one of them come with a lock.
Right.
So you can lock them, and we're talking about vehicles specifically, but most shotguns come with like a breech lock or something like that. You can run a rope through that. Run the actual breech lock through that and bolt it or padlock it to your car, to like underneath your seat or something like that if you needed to. There are different shotgun cases that you could purchase later on. And if we're talking about long guns or pistol cases, you can go to Harbor Freight and pick up an
Apache case.
An Apache case.
An Apache case.
That is the brand.
Yeah, and safely store your firearm in your vehicle.
Speaking about that, storing your firearm, but it's also in your home too. We went through the class, and that most, and I try and say just all in classes, because there are some that are and can be drop safe, but most all shotguns are not drop safe. So storing one in a closet or something like that, and one in the chamber, it is a dangerous thing. So everybody out there who's listening and you have one in the chamber, unload it. Because if it falls over, it could go off and hurt somebody. Yeah, a shotgun.
It has.
And exactly.
It has gone off.
And in the class, there is, we do go over closet cruiser ready. We call it closet ready because we're not law enforcement, but closet ready is still loaded, but it's also in a way that if you dropped it or it fell over, but you also have to think about where you're going to store it for children and for neighbors or friends or family or whatever. It has to be stored in such a way that they can't get to it and load it and hurt something or them.
I didn't mention that, but in the training part, I didn't know how to safely store a gun. And because of that, we have grandchildren around the house all the time, so I'd keep them empty for that reason. And well, they're in a safe, but I still keep them empty because I don't want any risk of children getting around a firearm that can go off. And so this was a great lesson for me. I learned a lot about how to safely store a shotgun without it dropping or something hitting it and making it go off. So that was a third point.
That's a good point. When we're talking about gun safes, I mean, this is just kind of how my brain sees it. If it is a gun safe where you put multiple firearms in it, that is exactly what it is. It's storage of firearms. They don't have any other purpose other than like maybe hunting, target shooting, or maybe it's a backup for another home defense gun or carry gun or something like that. Those should all remain unloaded, right? If you have a gun that is tasked out to be used for self-defense, maybe home defense, or maybe it's your carry gun or something like that. If it's tasked out for that purpose, it needs to be separated from the rest of those firearms and put in its own little like rapid access safe that you can get to in a timely manner. And that gun, depending on what action it is and what type of firearm it is, should be loaded in some way, shape, or form. So for a shotgun, you were talking about closet ready, which is essentially you have shotgun shells inside the tube, but you don't have one in the chamber, right? So all you really have to do is pick the gun up and rack it, run the bolt, run the action, and then the gun is loaded. You can do the same thing with handguns too if you so desire. But I think what a lot of people end up doing is they shove all of their guns inside of a safe, and like you said, because you have grandkids going around the house, it's best to just keep them all unloaded, right? There are other ways to go about doing it. For instance, my son my son's really big on coming to get me anytime he sees a gun laying around, right? He'll literally say that to me. Papa, I found a gun laying around. And I know he did not find a gun laying around, but there's always that like, okay, did somebody use my bathroom and leave a gun or something like that? So I go every single time, and he'll do it every single time. He'll take me to the shotgun. I have a shotgun that is out in the open for home defense. It has, we talked about it at the last show. Yep. We have a stop box. They call it the stop lock. Mm-hmm. So it's a breech lock that goes inside the chamber, right? And okay, there's that.
Yes.
It goes inside the chamber, and I can rip it off fairly easily. If Kipley tried to, there's no way he's gonna get his little hands around that thing. It ain't coming out. So even if he did, he'd have to run the bolt, and there's just no way, right? So that gun is locked up, but it is out in the open, ready to be used. He can't pick the thing up. He's not strong enough, but he couldn't get that thing apart if he wanted to, right? So there are different tools out there that you can use, safely store your firearm, even if it is for home defense, if you need, ready access to it, right?
I'm thinking, for our next show, we're going to stir up some controversy. I think for our next show, because we've all talked about it. We talked about the grandkids. We talked about your kids. I've talked to my kids on previous shows. I think we really need to discuss the Storage Defense Minor Act. We need to talk about kids and guns.
Yeah.
It's brought up in multiple conversations. We keep talking about we tend to talk around it, but let's hit this head on. We're going to stir some controversy up here in our listening area: Iredell County, Davie County, Alexander County, Yadkin County, Mecklenburg. Let's see. We'll see what kind of responses we get. You've been listening to the Responsibly Armed Citizen Show on the world famous WSIC. We are on air every Saturday at 1:00. Call us. Let us know. Let us know if you have any interest. Let us know if you have any topics. You can reach out to us at info@apacheNC.com. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.